All right, ladies, Judy Weber here with our 12th episode of our Outrageously Successful Women in Real Estate series. And I'm super excited to be bringing you Andrea Szlavik. And I hope I pronounced your name right, hon.
You did.
Okay, great. I want to give a brief introduction to Andrea. I have known Andrea. She doesn't know me as much as I know her because she has been a force to be reckoned with right here in my neck of the woods. She is in Montgomery and Chester County in Pennsylvania, right outside of Philadelphia. She's been in business for 17 years. And as I said, I've been following her. You know, I've been an agent for 10 years. And sorry.
Wow.
I don't know what that was. Let's make sure I mute everybody because that will pretty much kill everybody.
Sorry, I think that was an email that came in. I apologize.
Oh, okay. Well, that's okay. It happens. It happens. So, but Andrea, you're about to hear from a woman who has been in the business for 17 years. She holds her broker's license, several designations as well. And I love how she's put her team together, which is a team of powerhouse ladies. So, you know, I'm all over that. So without further ado, let me introduce Andrea Szlavik.
Hi, everybody. Nice to meet you.
Yeah. So I have a bunch of questions for Andrea, but first I just want to say, you know, I'm feeling kind of funny because I have earphones in. I realized like 5 minutes before we started that I didn't have sound on my computer. So I have a feeling my earphones will fall out at one point. But anyway, let's jump into it. So Andrea, I love your story of how you came to real estate and your whole background, because you have this internationalness about you, and you know, you built a team that's really very special. So let's start at the beginning and tell us please how you entered real estate.
I actually entered real estate when I decided that I wanted to buy investment properties. So it was a long time ago, and my husband at the time and I wanted to purchase real estate properties. And I thought, like most people who originally enter real estate, that it was the easiest gig. You put the sign in the yard, and you know what a great profession that would be. And I was only going to do it for our family and for our investments and so forth. I quickly realized you can't do anything well if you only do it once a year or twice a year. So being a real estate agent for just our properties didn't really make sense. Either you had to, oh, sorry, I don't know why that keeps doing that. I'm trying to figure out how to get rid of that.
That's okay.
I'm so sorry. I thought I had everything closed. But the only way to do something really well is to actually do it more and often. So I had friends who entrusted me in selling their properties, and then it just kind of built on itself. And then after a few years, I realized that every time I wanted to go away on vacation or spend a little family time, I'd have an obligation for real estate. So I decided to build my team so that I could actually get away and spend some time with my family. And I went to my sphere, and a lot of them were moms from my kids' school, and said, do you want to get into real estate? And I slowly built my team over the years through that.
Okay. And so how many ladies do you currently have on your team?
There are 10 of us right now.
Okay. So. And so as I read your bio somewhere, and I kind of researched you all over the internet, but as I understand it, each woman has her own specialty or has a specialty, like relocation, and others have like the seniors. Can you tell us a little bit how you structured your team?
Well, I basically decided that on what their interests were. I always encourage them to, when they do their continuing ed, to, instead of just doing the mandatory 14 hours, look for a designation for something that interests you. We did do some new construction for a 55 plus community. So the ladies who sat that, it was the natural progression for them to get the senior specialist designation. And I have one agent on my team who is very involved in the equestrian field. So she does a lot of horse farms. That's her passion. So we try to have them focus on the things that they're best at, and that pertains to their particular lives.
Mm-hmm. That's excellent. And in your bio, it talks about corporate relocation, and that the agents were exclusives within certain nationally recognized companies. Can you tell us about that?
what that happened is we built a relationship with the HR managers, and they know that we will take really good care of all of their transferees. So they come to us first to see if we can help them find a home in this area.
That's awesome. Now, does that happen to be in the pharmaceutical employers?
No, they're not. They're out in Berks County. So.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, that's interesting that you raised that point, Andrea, because, we know that can be very lucrative, but also very difficult to break in. So how was it that you developed that relationship with the HR person to get you guys that gig, for lack of a better word?
We actually, one of my teammates, her husband got transferred himself to another state. So she is no longer on our team. But at the time, she was neighbors with him. And so they became good friends, and it kind of just evolved from there.
That's awesome. So for someone that doesn't really know anybody right now in a business, wherever they are in the country or in Canada, I'm sure there are companies all over the place that have the larger transferee population, and it's just hard to break in. Do you have any advice on doing that?
That is harder because they usually go through the larger companies, certainly go through like the relocation companies. So it's hard to go directly to the agent. I would probably say that's more of a good fortune type thing. Oh, sorry. A good fortune type thing, as opposed to being something that I would spend too much time focusing. But the key on that is to look for people to network, whether it's through meetup.com or through other organizations or groups, to try to find people that might be a source for continued leads, not just referrals of a friend or a family, but there may be industries that they may be able to network with, not just mortgage people, but also maybe there are attorneys that deal with divorces or foreclosures that can help them get into those particular niches.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Now, you've been in the business so long, and I know you have tons of referrals, but do you have any networking secrets, like for maybe wallflowers? And I can tell you, in my 20s, when I first entered sales generally, I used to dread those things, and I used to just like grab a drink and hang out by the wall. But of course now I don't do that. But I'm curious, how do you approach networking at networking events and even at other areas?
That's always been my hardest thing too, because I'm not much of I want to go hang out with strangers. I like my friends and I like to hang out with them. So I would certainly say you do have to step outside your comfort zone if you are a wallflower. If you can go with somebody else who is either a teammate or a fellow realtor or even a mortgage person that you have an affiliation with, and you guys kind of both go together to those events, sometimes it's easier in a number, especially if you do have a mortgage person or another person in the industry that might, you guys can kind of piggyback. And I would say that as far as sometimes being in events where there are, where multiple people, or if you can organize a group. So we do some Facebook, like we'll do invitations and so forth to try to do meetups for women that would like to all network. They have different products, different things to sell. If you can organize a group like that, you already know these people. And so it's kind of expanding your own personal sphere.
Mm-hmm. Can you tell me more about that? Because I wasn't familiar with that. What do you mean when you say you're kind of pulling together meetups for ladies in the area?
Well, what we do on occasion, I mean, we've done over the years, is organize kind of a girls' night out and have everybody, it's almost kind of like an informal BNI, but it's not really, that's not your main reason to go there. It's mainly to hang out and socialize, but then you start talking about work, and you start trying to network and see what can I do to help you with your business, and vice versa.
Okay.
If you get it from if you approach your sphere and your group of friends and ask them to bring their friends, then it can be a nice big group of people that you already know some of them. It's not the majority of them. So it's a lot easier than if you go to a big event at the Xfinity Center where you're meeting complete strangers and, you know, you're by yourself.
I love that. And that makes sense to really, bring other friends into the picture to help fill the space. You know what I mean? I mean, you only know so many people, and even of all the people we're so busy. It's hard to sometimes even pick one night when half of them or a quarter of them could even show up. So I love the idea of, tag teaming with another agent if you have a team, or maybe with your lender or title people. I think that's excellent. Tell us, what is your, top 2 or 3 lead source? Where do you find your business coming from?
The top lead source by far and away are referrals from either past clients or people in my sphere. I spend most of my time marketing that and reaching out and keeping those ties. It's important to know that, it's important that they know that this is your full-time profession, that you're not something else and a realtor, that you are dedicated to this and you have experience, because it is the most important decision that they make financially, the biggest asset that they're going to have. So no matter how good friends they are with you, they're not going to entrust you with that unless they know that this is what you live, eat, breathe, sleep. And that we cultivate that, and we like to spend a lot of time with them. And we, as a result, we like to follow some of the Buffini strategies of reaching out and trying to make sure that they stay in the forefront, because not everybody is geared towards sales. I have a lot of friends that aren't in the sales industry in any way, shape, or form. So unless you remind them that it's really important and it's vital to your business, that if they know of somebody buying or selling, that they remember you, they don't not do it on purpose. They just don't think about it. Mm-hmm. So
you're bringing up so many good points, and I just want to kind of go a little bit deeper on that. So many ladies that we deal with, and I'm blessed to talk with ladies every day who are trying to build their business, some at multi-6 figures, but many just getting started and really kind of struggling. And a lot of those ladies are doing a bunch of things. Now, I understand sometimes you can't leave the corporate job until you are able to financially. But to those that are doing real estate and they have what they call a side hustle, selling candles or I don't know, whatever it could be. What do you tell those ladies?
I would say just be mindful of the fact that you don't want to be known as having 2 jobs. In my opinion, the people that I have seen that do have a side hustle, that I did have a teammate that at one point in the beginning, she was working as a seamstress, like doing curtains and things like that with another employer. And she had somebody that was ready to list their home, and they asked her to come in, and they said, "Yes, I'm about to list my home. I would like you to do the curtains." And so not list the home. And she was like, "What?" So I'd be careful. And I said, well, because this person and you've known them for 15 years, but they know you as having done curtains. They don't really know you as a realtor. And so they're going to look for somebody who they associate as real estate agent with that person, not as not as a person of many hats. So I would be very careful of that, or downplay that when you're in your marketing and your Facebook, just because they want to know that you're not diversified, that you're focused on this. Like, I wouldn't want a dentist that does my teeth, but at the same time, runs a car wash. It's, you know what I mean? You want to have somebody who that's all they do.
Right. I love that because, we know how hard it is to build a business that really thrives. And it takes so much time that the hours that they're spending doing these parties and building these other businesses, they'd be far better served. We tell our clients, really, if you can, focus on this, because we're in high-end sales. And I know sales has kind of gotten a bad rap, that word. It's not a dirty word. We can make, $10,000, $20,000 a transaction and more. So, just the whole time investment itself really doesn't make sense if you're splitting your time. So I'm glad that you mentioned that. Did you have anything else to add?
I was just going to say, I do say to my teammates that when I'm trying to help them grow their business, that they need to spend at least 2 hours a day, every day, lead generating. And that's working on whether it's your sphere, completing your database, getting out there on social media, going to networking events. If you don't spend 2 hours every day, I still try to do that. And I'm pretty established. And I would certainly say that as a newer agent, you absolutely have to spend as much time, or if not more time, on building your business when you don't have the clientele to be able to get the clientele. That's what real estate's actually more about, is building your brand. That's the hardest part of real estate. Understanding the documents and client care comes naturally to most of us who are in this industry. Otherwise, you don't last in this industry. But building your database and building your sphere of people who trust you for this most valuable asset that people are purchasing is the hardest things to win that trust.
I love that. I love that you said building your brand is so important. And I know when I started back in 2008, you know, it was like, I was proud to say I was with Banker because I felt like that was my brand. And I think so many ladies even today, and men too, we come and we kind of assume that even though we're not an employee of the broker, that we're kind of like going to ride their coattails kind of thing. And so I love that you said you got to build a brand, because I think as we go into 2019, this idea of brand you, which we coined that phrase, it's your business starts with you, you know, so you shouldn't be afraid to bear your personality and really be who you are, authentically and unapologetically you. So I'm curious, how do you teach your ladies on your team to build their own brand? I mean, I know it's important to say they're part of the Andrea Szlavik team, but what do you teach them in that regard?
Well, we focus a lot on the social media right now, because that is kind of the emphasis for most people at the moment. So it changes, it's always evolving. But that's one of the keys, is for them to work their sphere on social media, and not just Facebook, but Instagram and LinkedIn and Twitter and even Pinterest, to let people know how knowledgeable you are, and that you provide a service, and that you're also busy and engaged, and that other people are entrusting you with the sales of their homes, because that's important for people to see, that they know that you're a busy realtor, that you actually do have clients, even if you're starting off and you're new. And that's important to be part of a team is helpful too, because you can co-work with other teammates. That's one of the benefits of working with a team. If you're a brand new agent, you can co-work with the other teammates, and me as the team leader in our team, we do that so that if you need to be able to advertise with our listings, you can do that as a team member. So that helps to get the word out there that you are working and you are shadowing either team leader or other team members until you have your own.
Right, and that gives you that credibility. So they know that, you know, you may be new, but you've got a team behind you. So that's really important. That's super. Well, I know you are active on social media. Your Facebook page is really awesome. And I know on LinkedIn, I always see you posting things. Is that you that's posting, or do you have a social media manager?
Actually, I'm going to turn this over. See that person right over there?
There she is.
That's Lisa Mashuli. She's the brains of the operation. I like to call her the Wizard of Oz. She's the one behind the curtain. So she is my social media guru. And that is her primary job, is to actually make sure that we're constantly have a presence on all the social media platforms. And that includes the organic placements, as well as paid searches and paid advertisements. So yes, she is my right hand.
Kudos to her. She's doing a fabulous job. Well, listen, you're so welcome. You're blessed to have her. So a couple of things. Number one, I'd love to know how you got her, how you found her. But also, secondly, I want to ask you about Facebook ads. I just wanted to throw that out in case I forget either of those questions. So how is it that you found an incredible woman who can do so well?
You know what? I'd love to say there was some amazing story, but actually we're both hockey moms, and our kids were on the same hockey team, and I was looking for an assistant, and she was like, hey, pick me, and I'm like, all right. And it evolved from that, and she started out kind of assisting me with more admin things. And then we realized this is her passion and she's really amazing at it. So she took it and has run with it.
That's super. And sometimes we find our best people just getting out there and letting them know that we're looking for them. That's super. Well, tell me about your Facebook ads, because I did not know that you were running ads. Like, because you're so established, I'm curious if you don't mind sharing kind of your ad spend generally and kind of what you're putting out there.
You know what? I would almost defer to Lisa to answer this question. Lisa, do you think you can give a little bit more background on the Facebook ads and so forth?
Sure. We'll run Facebook ads if we have new listings. I like to run an ad mostly to advertise those listings, but I also like to run ads to brand us and to brand the Andrea Szlavik team. So if I find something that I see has gotten a lot of likes or a lot of hits, then I'll boost or try to run an ad for that. And so I'm sorry, just so that we're like constantly being like seen.
And also
Yes.
for open houses and for any price changes,
right?
Anything that we can that would kind of post a new interest in it. And the good thing about Facebook ads is you can modify your demographics based on what type of property it is, based on the location, so that you're not getting people in Chicago looking at a home in Pennsylvania.
Right. And you can also choose if it's maybe like a 1-2 bedroom, 2-bath house. I can also choose, as far as demographics go, who I want to go into. So I'm not going to choose a couple with like toddlers and it's something like along those lines. You can choose what type of groups you want to see it.
Right, for a 50 community. Right. And so forth.
I'm not going to choose families to see 55 and older.
Okay. And one last question on the Facebook ads. And I so appreciate your time here, Lisa. That's super. So do you have a budget then for Facebook ads?
I do. I do run a continuous ad that's costs $2 a day, and that just runs constantly. And then I do about, maybe depending on what the ad is for, about $20 to $30 per ad.
Okay. And how many leads would you get off of in a week, say, for this $2 ad that's just kind of ongoing?
I wouldn't necessarily say so many leads, but just recognition. I think we get a lot of brand recognition.
And it's hard to quantify that people who call us are specifically seeing it, because they usually coming straight from that ad, because they usually see us on that. They'll see us on something else when they're maybe on Zillow or Realtor. They see our name pop up multiple times, and then they decide to go to the website and check out our bios. And it kind of, there's multiple steps before you get somebody that doesn't otherwise know you, that's not coming from a referral.
Gotcha. And so, yeah, there's definite value in getting that brand awareness out so that people can say, oh my gosh, there's Andrea Szlavik again, and that's what they're doing, right?
Also, every week I go in and I change our Facebook. You know how they have the profile pictures and the cover pages? Well, I have a slideshow for our Facebook cover pages, and I like to go in every week and just change those. So people know we're out there, we're actually on the site, we're doing stuff. And then also, when you change it, you get notification. So it's, again, our name is out there being presented that, we made a change to our Facebook page.
That's awesome.
I do that every week as well.
Kudos, Lisa. You're doing a fabulous job, really. All right. Well, Andrea, let me ask you about referrals.
Okay.
You mentioned earlier about how your team members, you're telling them, you got to build your database, you got to stay connected. How often do you suggest that they connect with those in their database, and how are you suggesting that they do that? Do you have a system?
That's a really good question. We try to categorize them based on probability, and if they've given us past referrals, very similar to the Buffini program where they list them as A clients, B clients, C clients. And then we certainly touch base with them via email more regularly, because some of our programs that we have through our company allow us to do that pretty seamlessly. But then for direct touch bases, we do it a few times a year. And some of them we do the tags in the drop-bys, like suggested in the Buffini program. And then, and some of them, it happens through other social outlets, because a lot of my sphere, our paths cross for different reasons. So then just try to make a point to reconnect and
Yeah.
of your industry. And if they think of anybody in the upcoming months, give them a holler, give us a holler.
Now, are you a proponent of door knocking?
I am not. And that's just me. That's where the wallflower comes out in me. I'm not comfortable walking up to somebody's door and that I don't know, like going to a neighborhood and soliciting it. I've never been comfortable doing that. And I don't, some people are really good with it. And there are some, I know of some people who that's what they do. I'm not a cold caller either.
Okay. And along those lines, then I imagine where you are, your level, in real estate, are you ever calling cold, or are your lead gens really staying in touch with your warm, database?
They're staying in touch with my warm database. Absolutely. And then through other advertisements and so forth, we do follow up with those. Anything that they've touched on one of our listings, if they do a click through, usually we can capture their email, sometimes their telephone number, but they've showed their interest first, and then we do follow up with them pretty rigorously.
Okay. And I see someone has their hand up. If you wouldn't mind putting your question in the chat, that would be super. Thank you so much. What are the 2 or 3 things, Andrea, that you attribute your success to? What made you this, super success that you are? And now's the time to boast. You don't have to be modest.
Yeah,
okay.
I'm a little answering that. I think actually there was a woman and she's a mortgage person in the industry, and she was my biggest mentor when I first started. And shout out to Kimberly Kozowski with First Choice Mortgage.
She is awesome. I know her. Kimberly's great. Yep.
She actually, I remember her saying that the hardest part of the real estate business is the longevity, like establishing yourself, like hanging in there when you're first starting, having the ability, either financial ability or whatever, to be able to hang in there till you're seasoned enough, until you have enough repeat business. So the first couple of years are the hardest. And so I would certainly say the fact that every year it gets a lot, it is easier to be able to, breathe and know that you're going to still do a steady stream of business. Because I know when I was a beginner agent, I would always be like, all right, I just had a settlement. Now what? You're always worried about that. Another one on my team is like, yes, I know that feeling. So, so if you can hang in there, and I would certainly say that was a big proponent. I will say that I definitely spent a lot of time, and I still do, on trying to find creative ways to generate leads. And I've tried everything. Like I've tried, purchasing them and so forth. And I haven't had a lot of luck with those over the years, but really just coming up with creative ways of networking to be able to remind people that you're not only a real estate agent, but you've got experience and you've got knowledge, and that you live it, eat it, breathe it, sleep it. Because if you let people know that you're doing, that you're part-time or you're mostly focused on other things, they don't really want to know that you have a life or that you have kids or anything else. They want to know that you're obsessed with real estate, and that's it. And so that's the key when you're first starting out, is to let people know that you are a busy realtor already.
Okay. And how about, does any of the ladies on your team ever say, you know what, Andrea, I didn't push it. If I'm at a listing appointment, for example, I didn't ask for the business then because I didn't want to be pushy or salesy, or when I was door knocking or talking with someone on the phone, I didn't push for the appointment because I didn't want to sound pushy or salesy. I don't know if your ladies ever expressed that and how you answer that.
Yes. I mean, I definitely have some agents on my team that are a little bit more timid as far as asking for the business. And it hasn't ever happened at a listing appointment, because I usually accompany all my teammates on a listing appointment. And so we kind of tag team it. So it goes a lot more fluidly. But in a social situation, there have been people who were like, I wish I would have asked, but then I didn't feel comfortable asking. So we do some practice role plays, and we try to work on it. But again, the longer you're in the business and the more transactions you have under your belt, the more confident you feel about your abilities and the ability to ask for business. But we definitely do some scenarios, and then sometimes we've been in social situations together where you know, you kind of help make that intro till they get used to doing it. It is something that you do learn because you have to. And so, oh, there's somebody popping up on the screen. I can see it.
Yeah. We'll get to that in 1 second. Sure. Thank you.
Yeah, so basically, it is something that will get easier the more you do it. But in the beginning, it is one of the hardest things, is to really say, hey, by the way, can you trust me with your real estate?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. But don't you agree, confidence, even if you're newer,
Yeah.
if you look them straight in the eye and say, I want to help you and I'm going to bust my butt for you and you can count on me. And especially, I think someone on your team would have the benefit to say, I have a 17-year vet who's amazing and she'll be walking along. So you'll get really two for the price of one.
That is actually one of the things that we tout in all of our listing presentations and so forth, is that you do get two agents for the price. Because you will have me alongside whatever agent on my team you get.
That's awesome. Now, Irene says, I've had trouble prioritizing. I need a structured focus on what to do. For example, the 2-hour time block to lead gen, then what? I jump from answering emails to studying material, no organized method. I'm all over the place. And, you know, that's one thing we do in our group coaching, that we provide structure, because, you know, you could park it on YouTube and watch all kind of videos and learn. But if you don't have structure to your day, you know, the day can go in a snap. So how do you teach your ladies a specific, you know, general day and how the schedule should follow?
That's one of the beauties of real estate, is that you have the flexibility to kind of, your day evolves based on what, some of it is reactionary. If you have a client that comes into town and wants to see homes, then you have to be flexible to do that. But I try to have them commit to at least 2 hours in the office to focus on lead generation. And then if you have more time, if you don't have appointments or a broker's open to host or something else to do, then we certainly do come up with a game plan of it's more of all the things that you want to make sure you do. Like, you know, did you take care of your Facebook? Did you take care of did you write your cards out to touch base with your sphere? Did you, do your continuing ed or your education? So we usually come up with a list, and that varies. It's not something that is just a standard list that happens that's the same all the time. It changes all the time based on what type of year, what we have to get done. And this time of year is where we really kind of regroup and really focus on kind of building for the spring market, when we're so busy that it's harder to take that time to do these more kind of admin stuff.
Right. So let me ask you, going back just briefly to the referral thing, I meant to ask you, what CRM do you use?
Ours is provided by my company.
Oh, okay.
So and we'll be actually changing it in January, but I think it's called Agent Achieve, or ARC is what we call it.
Okay. I didn't know because there are some, believe it or not, there are some $1 million earners who don't have a CRM, and they're embarrassed when they tell me that. And I'm like, don't be embarrassed. If you have a system that works, more power to you.
Absolutely. I mean, I like our CRM that we have now. And it makes it easy because it will automatically be able to send out newsletters and other things. And it tracks dates, and not only birth dates, but home anniversary dates and all that kind of stuff. I think that's really important because I have too many from 10 years ago that it's hard to keep track of everybody if you don't have some kind of system. I would highly recommend that. Make sure it's easier.
Yeah, absolutely. And having automatic tasks so that kind of, you haven't reached out to this person in a while based upon whatever setup you have in the system, which is great. Exactly. Let me ask you, with mindset, and we talked about it a little bit earlier, I think it's absolutely critical to success. And that's what's going to give you that longevity and perseverance that you talked about earlier. What do you do every day? If you do anything every day, what do you do to keep your mind on track and staying positive, even when things happen that kind of, deals sometimes fall out, for example? How do you handle staying positive and moving forward?
Well, a couple different ways. I like to, in the morning before I start with the mayhem of my day, I like to take some time to have a cup of coffee and just to kind of regroup and start thinking about how I'm going to plan my day out. That's one. And then the other one is I think it's really important, if you have it, is to be able to take some time at the end of the day to shut off and to be able to spend, even if it's an hour, and then before you go to bed, you know, you check emails again, or return texts and phone calls, but take a couple hours or an hour at least to spend some time with your family or do something good for yourself. Because if you don't, then you end up getting really burnt out very quickly. Like it can be a 24-hour ordeal. Like, I mean, I've been guilty of waking up at 2 o'clock in the morning and checking my emails and my texts, and because I couldn't sleep at night. And you just have to distance yourself a little bit so that you can stay fresh and focused for when you are really on.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. That's awesome. Now, one thing I meant to get to earlier and I'd forgotten about, do you care to share kind of what your sales volume is thus far? We have a few more weeks left in the year.
Yeah, I think I'm around 20 million this year.
20 million for your entire team?
I am, yep, for our entire team.
That's awesome. And what's your average price point? I know, but for other ladies that aren't in our neck of the woods, what's your average price point?
You know what, that varies, but I'm going to say probably around 400,000, but it can be anywhere from like the high 2s to the high 8s. Like, I mean, it's somewhere usually there. Every now and then we get one over $1 million.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, that's awesome. So let me ask you, what makes Andrea Szlavik unique?
I would like to think that what makes me unique. I would like to think that I'm patient and I'm a good listener for my team and for my clients. I live it, I breathe it, I eat it, I sleep it. And that may not specifically make me unique because I'm sure a lot of people feel the same way. But I would certainly like to think that I rest my hat on the fact that I was able to build my team and my business on a really good foundation where we have good ethics and we have my teammate just wrote this in here, said supportive, great mentor, great person.
Oh, there you go.
Carol, here's Carol. She's like, no, don't show it to me.
Oh, I want to see your pretty face. Okay. All right. Well, that's awesome because, you know, what I was getting at is we always tell our ladies, look, you and Irene, I'll get to your other questions in just one second, that you are unique. And if you don't know how you're unique and how you're going to help this, you know, prospect, this prospective client better than somebody else, you're going to struggle because, you know, I think women, just like when I asked you, what are you great at? I think women's first reaction is, I want to hide. Like we don't want to be right. We don't want to be braggadocious. We don't want someone to think we're high and mighty.
Yeah.
And, you know, so I felt you kind of clenching or not feeling comfortable with that, but you're awesome. And I know that because I know you. So, you know, if has anyone point blank in the early days, before you established a name for yourself, did anybody in the early days look at you and say, well, I'm interviewing 2 or 3 other people. Why should I hire you?
Oh, I get that all the time. That's not just in the early days. We get that all the time. And there's a lot of different answers to that depending on what they're looking for. I mean, some of it is what makes our team unique and how we will market their home differently than other people will market their home. And some of it is our personality, because quite frankly, you will always get, you know, there's always a possibility of getting buyers or sellers where either they have strong personalities, they have shyer personalities that you can adjust to what they're comfortable with and their comfort level. And it can't always be your maybe if you're a boisterous person, sometimes you have to subdue it a little bit to deal with a more quieter personality. So you kind of have to be flexible that way.
Mm-hmm. I love that. And one thing I tend to be a spaz. I talk fast. I think about 10,000 things and I tend to get messed up in my speech, but you have a very calm and calming demeanor. And so as I'm talking with you now, that would be what would stand out. So you would be someone I would love to hire because you would calm me down. Have you ever heard that before?
I have. I do get that. There are a handful of people in my life who have said that to me before. But I'm like, you know, life can be so stressful that it's just easier to, like, I don't know, just that's how I combat it is to just, you can get through pretty much anything if you have a chance to, like, relax and think about it. And there's always a solution for something.
Love that. Problem solving is huge. Do you agree? That's like a huge success trait you need.
Absolutely. That's 90% of our work, because there's always going to be an issue that comes up that's usually unexpected, and you have to be able to tackle it calmly and assure your clients that it's going to be handled no problem.
Yeah, because what we found is that, you know, if you don't handle something correctly, sometimes you meeting the agent on the other side, if that person doesn't handle it correctly, they can excite their client and totally like screw up the deal when it really shouldn't have been blown, right?
So true. That is so true. The agent can make or break a deal. So true.
That's awesome. And I just want to follow back on what Irene said. So you don't write and rewrite your goals in the morning, or so you don't write and rewrite your goals versus having your alone time in the morning, then decide what you're going to do.
I don't write and rewrite my goals.
And I think what she's talking about is, I know have heard other ladies who every morning they kind of write and rewrite kind of their goals for the day. Like they have annual goals. Is that right, Irene?
Exactly.
So you have your annual goal, you have your monthly goal, and maybe quarterly goal, but then every day you say, okay, what are my top 3 things I need to do today?
Right.
Okay. I actually keep a list on my phone under my notes section, because I come up with things at the weirdest moments. Like I could be brushing my teeth and I'm like, ooh, I need to make sure this has to be on my priority list for today. Or if it's in the evening, for tomorrow. So I do keep a running list that I always have. I have goals every day that it seems like my list, I take one off and I put 2 on. So it's never ending.
See, so ladies, take solace in that, okay? You're never going to get stuff done. We could work 24/7 for 50 years and we will still have a to-do list. So that's really great. Time is running. I just have one last question. I saw that it looked like you sponsor events. And I think that's another great outreach to the community, helps get that brand awareness out. Can you tell us about the events and what you're involved with there?
Well, every year we contribute to different events, and depending on where our lives take us. And over the years, I've contributed to the celebrity golf outing for the Philadelphia Flyers. That was a couple years back. Lisa has been very involved with the Mitzvah House, which is located in Harleysville, and clothing drives and so forth. It's good to give back to the community. It feels good, and we feel very fortunate because we've had the good fortune happen to us, and I think it's good karma to also give back as well.
That's awesome. That's great. Any last words, anything that you wanted to discuss, or words of wisdom for our ladies who will be listening, on the replay?
I would say that hard work is that's the most important thing that you can do. If you keep at it, and definitely be structured and focused, but you can't, work hard for a day and then blow the rest of the week off. And that's really hard in our business because there's nobody that's accounting you for your time except for you. So nothing replaces really spending and smart time. Like if you're in the office, not to chat at the water cooler, it's really to get focused on your lead gen and organization for your CRM or what have you, but to really use your time wisely. That would be my biggest.
Yeah.
And do you time block, Andrea?
I do. I go through periods of time blocking. If I'm going to be perfectly honest, I'm not the best at it because my day changes on a dime. If I get an agreement, and I got an agreement in earlier today, then I just, I'm going to have to stop what I was planning to do after this meeting, go meet with that person. So I'm somewhat flexible, but I do block out. There are certain days where I'm like, I need to block this out to do specific tasks. And then that takes priority.
Yeah.
Great. Excellent.
Okay.
Well, Andrea, thank you so much for your time. I know you said you had 45 minutes and I want to honor that. Thank you so much for all of your words of wisdom. And we need to do lunch.
I would love to. How about after the holidays? That would be ideal.
Sounds perfect. All right. Merry Christmas, one and all. Andrea, thank you again. Take good care, ladies.
All right. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.